The following podcast is scheduled for one fall from the heart of Cape Comic-Con inside the historic Osage Center. This is Pro Wrestling Unscripted.
It is a special edition of Pro Wrestling Unscripted. First off, we have a crowd, and by crowd, hello, 7 of you.
They sound louder.
They
That's
sound
the
loud.
thing.
In attendance tonight, we have the lovely Kevin Huntsberger from My 123 Cents. Hello, Kevin. We have some CCW fans here as well. That guy. And we're going to have Animal out here in a second. I want to say, first off, my name is Shannon Young, Mr. 100. I'm going to be your host tonight for this half of the show. With me, we have an all-star panel. We got Asa Gray, the 5-star man.
Yes.
We have Allie, not actually a bear.
Hello.
Joining us specially, the best of the best. No, you do it. You do it the best.
Yo. Oh, wait.
Okay.
Is that not mine?
Worst of the worst.
Is that not mine? Just do the yo.
Austin Lane is here with us tonight. And as a special guest, and probably, all right, so
Shots fired.
of all the people that they've said, how did you get Austin on the show? How did you get Animal on the show? I've gotten equally, how did you get Hunter on the show? Making a return to Podzilla 1985, one of the original co-hosts of Pro Wrestling Unscripted, Double H, Hunter Hendricks.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. It's been 3.5 years, and I was told if I didn't show up that I would get fined at this point. So this is the cutoff.
You were this close to getting your license revoked,
This
actually.
is it.
Yeah.
If I didn't show up now.
So we're going to have Animal out here in a second. This is kind of an interesting show because we're going to have half of this is with Animal. That's the Pro Wrestling Unscripted part of it. And then half of it is with Nerd Up, which Jesse Kimball is in the audience with the cast of Nerd Up, by the way.
I mean, not all of the cast.
Who's not
Jesse
there?
knows he
I
doesn't
mean,
have a mic, and so
hi.
he doesn't want to say anything. Just come
Oh,
over here.
Ace is
Come over here and
I was
get
gonna
on the
say,
mic.
here.
do you-
And Austin Dalton, because he said yo, like Dalton. So
oh yeah, but no, we don't
Yo.
want Austin to be Dalton. We want Austin to be Austin.
Yeah.
Dalton now.
There's no one wants to be Dalton.
So one of the big selling points of tonight's show is that Dalton is not here.
Yay!
We replaced Dalton. No room. Are you booing me or Dalton?
I'm booing you for being mean to Dalton.
No, Kevin, no.
We're not in front of the... No.
He's not. Kevin's not on mic. We can just pretend that he
building.
just absolutely he crossed the line.
Hold on, wait.
Like we joke about Dalton, but
what do you-
Kevin said was just cruel.
What are you saying, Kevin? Oh, you agree that Dalton's terrible. Oh, well...
Right? Yeah.
And you want to do what? To his dogs and cats? Jesus.
Mass hysteria.
You guys excited for Animal being here tonight?
Yes.
I had to teach Allie who Animal was.
Okay.
She was
Okay.
not familiar with the Road Warriors.
So honestly, did Allie think it was the Muppet?
She did.
Oh.
Originally, she thought it was the Muppet that he wrestled.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I thought we were going to have a Muppet on the show.
No, that's Rick Steiner. He's gonna be tomorrow.
The Animal, Rick Steiner.
Yeah. Well, you
Did
said the
she-
Muppet.
Did Allie prepare any questions for his tag team partners, Vegetable and Mineral?
Oh,
Or
I was.
is it just
What?
Is it just the one?
Is it? Can we make offensive jokes at this live panel?
No, family friendly.
This is
They
not
put
Thursday, is
they
it?
put the,
No,
they
it's
put
not.
those
It
signs
Like I
directly
had a
across
say in
from
the
Lee.
situation.
All right,
I don't.
but what if it's not family friendly, but it's also not like cursing? Can I do that? Like
I would say
it's
no.
Just oh damn
I would
it.
say no.
The worst part about it is when you don't actually know when he's going to get in here.
I was gonna say so we're just waiting on him to actually.
So we're just stalling until he actually comes in.
So I ask again: is this the pre-show? Or
this is the pre-show
Yeah,
to the show, and I'm going to request that anyone listening to this not tell him what I just said.
I mean, maybe just think before you speak.
Well,
would be the easiest way
no
to
more.
avoid that.
That was my
That's
last. That was my last offensive joke
all.
ever.
Yeah,
Can
okay.
you believe that? Yeah.
Ever.
Can you? Oh wait, it's people coming to the door.
Jesse's gonna find the.
They're looking.
Yeah.
Jesse's gonna find that book or another book. The terrible book.
I'll leave one door open then. If you don't have the door open, how will Animal know where to go?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Ken Murphy.
I don't know that that's going to work. Even.
Ken Murphy is supposed to go get Animal and bring him to the event.
What if he just brings you an animal of any variety?
Like Parker?
No, Parker's at home.
Somehow Parker's
safe and sound.
All right. While we got a second, let's talk to Austin Lane real quick.
Okay.
We got a second with Austin Lane. Austin,
Do you want me to go to try to
for
find
confirmation like I
Ken?
have to say? I don't.
yeah, if you want to go find Ken,
Yeah,
Ace,
I'll go-
our very own 5-star man is going to bring the animal to us. But while we have a second, Austin, tomorrow you're going up against Christopher Daniels.
Oh, Emma?
Oh, did you just find out about this?
Oh yeah, I had no idea
about this, Kev?
whatsoever.
Do you think your opponent was still Dalton?
Yeah, well, kind of, yes. I mean, I thought I had an easy night, you know.
Have you worked with Christopher Daniels before?
Never have. No.
Have you met him?
We've got a lot of mutual friends, but never worked with him. Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles, both friends with. So yeah.
You know who I became friends with yesterday?
Who's that?
Not to pat myself on the back, Barry Horowitz.
Oh.
Yeah.
You get that joke?
Yeah.
That's a much cleaner joke than the first one I made.
Much cleaner.
That's the one that's going to bring me back in the good graces of this.
I don't think you're going to get back in the good graces.
Again, no one tell him what I said, and I'm legit terrified the man might kill me. Hello. What's up, Nate walking in? Nate's friend.
Now that we've almost got a room full, you ready to spoil in game?
No.
Wait, no, I thought that's what this was
Spoil
about.
in-game.
Is this not about spoiling in game?
No.
No, don't applaud him.
So when Batman showed up,
Oh,
then-
gosh.
You beat me to it.
That's what I think that's my favorite part of in-game
you
right
had
now.
people, I guarantee you, with their phones on the podcast going, pause.
No. There's so many the people that keep
Who is
posting the fake in-game spoilers where it's
Oh, yeah.
like spoiler number 2, Spider-Man, becomes king of
Westeros.
Croatia. That's the first place I could think of.
I thought of Westeros.
Westeros makes more sense than Croatia.
We're
Yeah.
now officially going to spend the rest of the time before Animal gets here trying to figure out why Croatia is the first country that
gotta be
came to
Westeros.
mind.
This is going to be one of you know the skit "What Up with That" on SNL.
What's up with that?
He's going to come in and we're going to be like, "Woo, we out of time."
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
We're
Thanks for coming.
desperately out of time.
So tomorrow's the biggest show. Who here is for CCW? I know you're here for CCW. Nate, put your hand down. And you guys are here for CCW. Tomorrow's the biggest show we've ever done. Are you guys ordering it on pay-per-view as well as coming live?
We're going to watch it. We're going to watch it on Fight TV.
So you can watch it over
Yes.
and over and over again.
over and
Yes,
over
you
again.
need to order it on Fight TV, $9.99. Order that way you can watch it over and over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you could get that or the network. Why would you want the
Why would you want a month of the network? Does anyone
Right.
even watch WWE? Except Ava?
Does anyone know what
Probably.
WWE is?
You watch WWE?
And
We
the crowd
start
goes
there.
mild.
Are you guys going to meet the signers tomorrow? Yes. You got the meet and greet? Maybe. Asa, hello.
What's up,
Asa
Five-Star
looks
Man?
like he has the
He
worst
looks, he's
news.
like white as a ghost.
That's a great
Uh-oh.
look for right now.
I meant to go get him, but then I got distracted. Because I
But-
found Ken,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
who said I meant to get him, but then I got distracted.
distracted.
So then he just wandered off.
But we also told
So what you're telling me
The
is Ken
person
told you
helping
that he
is-
was distracted, which distracted you, which somehow
No.
also
No.
distracted
Well, because
you.
I'm not going to go be
And
like,
he
hey,
disappeared.
animal, I need you to follow me to come to this side room.
What's the worst that
Because-
could happen?
why not?
Because I don't,
What's
I
the
don't,
worst that could happen?
because he could tear me in half with a look.
He could literally eat you. Like, you like Mortal Kombat.
I do, but I like having the controller.
Yeah, well,
Like I don't want to be in that universe.
you would be controlled.
Like the first time the Netherrealm portal opens, I'm out. Just like, nope, I'm stepping in front
hey,
of
there's
the...
Ken Murphy.
Hey, guess what? It's not just
Hey,
Ken.
Hey!
Good to see you again.
Well,
So we haven't
gonna
been
get ahead of
stalling
that
for
one.
5 minutes waiting for Ken to get you. I promise. We have had a very, very good
That's
conversation.
absolutely not what we did
Yeah. Yeah.
at all.
Hey, listen. Wasn't my fault.
oh no, this is all on Ken. We understand
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
blame
no.
Ken. Where's Ken's not here to defend himself, but blame Ken.
He took off.
No, yeah, okay, because he knew what was
Yeah,
coming. So he
of
just
course,
banked.
man.
You can put him through a table if you want.
You know, I've broken many tables in my time. Just add one more to the list won't make a difference, right?
I'm sure these people would be entertained by it.
Yeah, heck yeah. You guys will see Ken through the table? Not today. He'll go through one tomorrow.
So there's a bunch of questions that I've wanted to ask you for years. I never thought I'd
Sure.
get the opportunity to ask you. And the one that has always burned in my head for the longest time, and you may have talked about it before, but I want to hear it straight from you. Whenever Hawk passed away, and you were repackaged, they had you with Heidenreich, they had you with Draws before that, but especially Heidenreich. What did you think about that? Was that something that you didn't mind, or without Hawk, was it just not the same thing anymore?
Well, first of all, what I want to say is awesome to be back in Cape Girardeau. I don't get down this way very much, man. Great to be a part of the Comic-Con and the wrestling this weekend. I look forward to it with Cape Wrestling. It's going to be a great weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Glad to be here on your podcast.
Thank you.
Sometimes in the wrestling business, they try to repackage you a little bit, and they try to they want to ride on the glory that you've accomplished with your partner, right? And listen, you're never going to be able to replace Hawk, and I knew that going into any of those things. There's just no way. I mean, very modestly, Hawk and I have gone in about 7, 8 different Hall of Fames. I don't think anybody in wrestling has gone into that many, and that's because we were able to transcend different time periods in the wrestling business. Even today, when you go on WWE site, over all their teams, New Day, everybody, you'll see the Road Warriors at the top. And that's because we have great fans, and the fans believed in our product, and that's big. And that's something what's missing today is they don't believe in the product. So in doing that, after Hawk passed away, we had all $100 million worth of LOD merchandise. So, Stephanie McMahon comes up to me and says, hey, man, we want to move this merchandise. Do you mind if we package you with Heidenreich? Well, I don't care if you want to do it. I said, but I'm not going to call him Hawk.
Right.
And I'm not going to, compare him to Hawk because there's no comparison to Hawk. There was one Hawk and one animal, and you couldn't make any duplications on the whole thing, right? Many imitators, no duplicators. So I said, yeah, man, if you want to sell that merchandise, let's repackage it and see where it goes. Ended up being, God bless him, but Heidenreich was the bigger headache than anybody I've ever partnered with. Seriously, they found him passed out on a New York Thruway up there in upstate New York somewhere because he was doing things he shouldn't have been doing. He should have been concentrating on business. He'd still be in the business, But it's stuff like that, and then they tried to do the draws thing at the one time,
Right.
when they had Hawk doing that stupid drunk angle, which I hated.
That was one of the most
Biggest debacles in wrestling history. Well, they wanted me to do it, and I told them no. I said, there's absolutely no way I'm doing it. I had a kid in grade school and in junior high and one in high school. I said, there's no way you're going to have me have to face those questions of, hey, is your dad a drunk or is he doing drugs? I said, absolutely not.
When you first started, like training and breaking in, because you and Hawk got paired together pretty early.
Yeah.
What was that kind of a goal of you wanted to be a tag team, or were you hoping to do single stuff? Or
to be quite honest with you, I was training for a walk-on trial with the New Jersey Generals of the United States Football League. I'm a football guy. I love football. Got myself in a little bit of issues in college where I had to quit college, but I was the college All-American linebacker and offensive guard, so I did pretty decent. So I had a friend of mine who played for the Bears, a guy named Art Meadowcroft, who was going to give me a tryout with Trump's team, New Jersey Generals, right? So I was training for that, and then in our gym, you got to picture our gym now. You had myself, Ravishing Rick Rude, Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, Hawk, Scott Norton, Flash Norton with the NWO. You had... who else? Nikita Koloff, Al Blake, who wrestled as Vladimir Pietrov, Nikita's cousin at one time. That he had to go to jail himself too. But we had a lot of guys in that area that ended up doing very well. I mean, look at us and Demolition and Ravishing Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig and Nikita. We were world champs. Mm-hmm. So and these were just guys that worked out at the same gym, went to the same high school. Half the guys did.
Oh, wow.
So. And we used to kid around. We were benching in the gym. A guy would be laying down on the bench, and we'd go and drop an elbow on him, boom, and kid around. And we all worked out at Jesse Ventura's gym. Jesse the Body Ventura had a gym in Minneapolis, so we all worked out there. So it was a pretty fun time back then. And then, one thing led to another. And we all worked at this bar called Grandma B's in downtown Minneapolis. We all were bouncers down there. A gentleman's club during the day and a bar at night that held about 1,500 people, 2,000 people every night. And so Eddie was a bartender, but Eddie had trained Jesse the Body Ventura. And he said, hey, I'm going to do another wrestling camp. You guys interested? I figured, well, what do I got to lose? I'm training for football anyway. The wrestling will help my endurance from wind for getting ready for football tryouts, so I'll try it and see what happens. Well, I had no idea that Eddie was best friends with Ole Anderson, who owned Georgia Championship Wrestling. And one day, as I was kicking some guy out of the bar for being rowdy, he lands right on Ole Anderson's shoes. And Ole Anderson looks at me and Hawk and Rick Rude. He goes, you come down to Georgia Championship Wrestling Friday. That was on a Tuesday, yeah. And the rest is history. And Hawk and I went in there the very first day, and he goes, here's your belt, don't lose them. And you gotta imagine, man. I've never even been near TV now. I've never even done an interview. Either as Hawk, right? And we go in there, and I'm looking, and there's like Sergeant Slaughter and Tito Santana and Tommy Wildfire Wrench and Dusty Rhodes and Mr. Wrestling #1 and 2 and all these guys, and I'm going, oh, did I just go into the Twilight Zone here? You know, I remember seeing them on cable TV because cable was just going up through the roof at that time, you know, with Turner Broadcasting. And I said, this is awesome. I said, wow, that was easy. We didn't even wrestle a match. We got the belts. You know, but it worked out good for us because we were literally street fighters because we bounced in a bar and, you know, I grew up an inner city kid where the very first Rocky movie was filmed, you know, in Philadelphia. And then I moved to Minneapolis. My dad worked for Honeywell when I was like my junior in high school. And, you know, so it didn't have exactly the easiest time starting off in life, right, inner city kid. But made the best of my breaks, man. I just took advantage of it and rode with it. But, you know, one thing Hawk and I always did, and we always taught we would do with our fans, we never insulted the integrity of our wrestling fan. I mean, we never put ourselves above them because we are a product of them. You know what I mean? We came from a lot of the environments that a lot of our fans come from. You know, so we could relate to what it's like to have to budget your check to come to a wrestling show on the 15th or the 30th of the month. We know what it's like to have to budget to what it costs to buy a T-shirt or a poster or a picture or anything, you know. I mean, so, and we respect that. So that's why when I go to these events, we don't overkill anybody with price because I tell the promoter when I come in, hey, man, don't be charging through the roof for people. I want people to go home happy. Right. You know, so in a lot of sense, you know, we kind of like were the fan that got into the wrestling business. You know, I think what sold me when I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I went down to the St. Paul Civic Center one time because I saw this big blonde guy came into my gym and worked out, and I was 17 years old. It happened to be Hulk Hogan. And I said, holy shit, look at the size of him. He was a monster at that time, 330 pounds, big, huge 24-inch arms. I go, whoa. Until he laid out on the bench and I saw I was doing more than he was at 18 years old. So then my ego got kind of pumped up a little bit there, you know. But I looked at him and said, whoa. Then I heard he was wrestling Nick Bockwinkel, who was the AWA champ. And I go, this has got to be a good match. So, you know, a bunch of us gym rats went down there and watched him. And the reaction he got walking down through the crowd, all you saw was that blonde mullet bouncing up and down amongst the sea of people, and it was sold out, 20,000 people in St. Paul. I said, wow, this is crazy. I said, I wonder what it would be like to have that someday. Never knowing that the entrance in the wrestling now is named after us. You know, hey, you got a Road Warrior pop. You know what I mean? Never thought that would even be possible. You know, but it was kind of cool the way it all started out.
One thing you mentioned, being in the gym and bouncing people and coming from that kind of Street Fighter aspect. I imagine in the 80s especially guys like you, the tough guys, like you had this persona of how tough you were, and you know, you and Demolition, guys like that. How many times, especially in the 80s when wrestling was still so widely regarded as, you know, legit shoot fight, these badasses, how many times did people try to test their mettle against you?
Well, you know, back then it was about protecting the craft. We weren't morons like today as guys and girls wrestle each other and they go out and they go have dinner together and they're out walking around there. I said, well, you're screwing the integrity, no matter what the boss says is entertainment or what, you're screwing the integrity of the business. You know what I mean? And how could you have that much hatred to somebody and tell them you're going to rip his lungs out and then go out and have dinner with him? Right. You know, and so back then, if someone were to tell you that wrestling was fake, man, you were ready to go to battle. Right. I mean, you're not going to take it because here's the thing. When you're on the road for 300 days a year in a different city, you take it personal because that is a killer lifestyle, man. You got a suitcase and half your crap is dirty all the time, and you got to go wash it on the road and the coin laundry laundromats, and you know, and you're putting paint on. You imagine putting paint on your face 300 times a year. Right. You get layers of skin disappearing off your face, you know, and you know, it just gets to be monotonous and old. So when someone would come in there, and you know, we're all doing this like you do your job, right? You do your job to support your household, your family, whatever you're doing to pay bills. We were doing the same thing. So when someone comes in there and it kind of like jabs at you, oh, that stuff's fake. Yeah. Well, really? Well, I've had 14 surgeries that says otherwise. Right. I mean, you know, I've had, you know, I got the concussion deal going on. I'm part of, you know, I had a concussion syndrome. I've had broken backs, broken necks. Steiner, a little prick I'm going to see tomorrow, broke my neck. Rick Steiner. Yeah. I'll remind him of all the time. And thanks a lot. I wake up twitching in the morning, you know.
Austin just came back from an injury recently.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot and let you talk to Animal because I share.
All right. What is your like some of the, like you were talking about the broken neck? What has been some of the toughest injuries that you've that you've had in the wrestling business? And like, are you usually, I know back in the day, especially when I first got into business, it was the same way. If you were able to get in the ring, you got in the ring, no matter, if you got your bell rung the night before or whatever it was.
Yeah, no time off.
Yeah, no time off at all. What was the toughest and the hardest injury it was for you to come back from?
Well, there's a couple times in our business, well, more than a couple times, but a couple that ring my bell a little bit, more than chairs ring my bell. But, one instance when we were in Japan, and Hawk had taken a backdrop from a guy named Tenru, great Japanese wrestler, was former sumo guy, world champ, one step away from Yokozuna, which is your top dog thing in Japan, right? And took a backdrop, and Hawk wasn't exactly the most agile guy taking a backdrop. You could fly through the air to give it a doomsday, but he couldn't take a backdrop worth a damn, and broke his leg, broke his tibia, the small bone in your lower leg. Well, 2 days later, we had the night of the Skywalkers in the Omni in Atlanta, and he had the cast on. Well, we landed in the U.S., went in the locker room. I cut that cast off. Good thing, a little bit of college I did take. I took athletic injuries in college, and I taped up that ankle and that leg and put a basket weave on that thing and a heel lock and all that stuff, athletic terms, and climbed up that scaffold like nothing was wrong and did the match. Took that tape off the next day, thing ballooned out, and then he had some time off to let it heal. Myself, I don't know if you remember that we did that big bench press contest against Warlord and Barbarian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a lot of people don't realize that 2 nights before, I was in Hammond, Indiana, wrestling the Warlord and Ivan Koloff. And Warlord went to give me a Samoan slam, and he slipped. And, and when you're behind him, it's a blind fall. So when Warlord landed on my head like this, when he did, my left eye popped out and popped back in. Well,
That got you squirming out there.
that'll make your butthole pucker, right? Yeah. So when I went back in too far. Right? So what ended up happening with it is that I went to Chicago General Hospital in Chicago because we were wrestling in Hammond. I didn't want to trust the hospital in Hammond. It was just a little rinky-dink one, so I went to Chicago General. Excuse me, I had a skull fracture, fractured cheek, broken nose, and blew out my orbit. So, and then I did the bench press contest 2 days later. I still did 545 with my eye blown out. I mean, from lifting, that's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight, period. But do it with a blown out orbit, just once a fire out of your head, right? Yeah. And so when I got it done, they had to operate through here and through my mouth, and it's still screwed up all the way, rotation up and down. And my left eye, I've always had vision problems with it, and this lip has been numb now for 25 years. And I had to reteach myself how to do promos again because when I would go to talk, my left lip would let it hang down a little bit, Felt like JR with that crap he's going through, But it's now finally, you look back on it, it's growth in your life and growth in this business, And you're right. Hawk and I came with the show must go on type attitude. You couldn't take a day off. We were in the main event.
Right.
If I'm in the main event against 4 Horsemen, I just can't say, time out, Mr. Crockett. I got to take times off. Sorry, Dusty, I can't go to work today. No, you have to go to work. Now a guy stubs his toe, he's got 3 months off. No, seriously. I mean, seriously, that punch that Nia Jax hit on Becky Lynch. Yeah. Becky Lynch was gone and missed the next pay-per-view. Are you kidding me? We would have said, you know what? Freaking stitch it up and get back out there. That's what they would have said. Get out there, man. You got a match to do. That's what they would have said, So that's the difference in today's business and probably what we did. Didn't make us any tougher or any probably made us more stupid. But in a business where you don't have insurances and you're paying for your own insurance all the time and everything else, the show must go on.
Well, we got time for one more question,
sure.
And then we got to swap this out because we got a 2-part show here. It's the biggest show we've ever done. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no problem, man.
We had Jeff Hardy on here once. We've
awesome.
had Jerry Lynn on here. Of course, Austin's been on here. It's an absolute honor to have you on here. Hunter, I'm going to throw the last question to you, and then we have a special treat. I'm not going to tell you what it is until Hunter's question's over and you respond.
Sure. I also don't know what the special treat is, but in any case,
it's a surprise
it's a
to
good
everyone.
way. I think it's a good way to wrap things up. man, a long-standing career. You've been all over the place. You've done all the things that you've done. When it's all said and done, what's the one thing that's always going to stick with you?
The one thing that's going to stick with me is how loyal the wrestling fans are. I love that about the wrestling fans, especially the Legion of Doom Road Warrior fans. Man, they've been, with all the crap that WWF tried to do to us to hurt our likeness and our persona, which never worked, because a true fan would go, that's crap. That's crap. The Road Warriors will really kill you. And which is, it's a testament to how much that we did our job the right way, where they believed in us. Which I think is a lost art today. And that I've left my legacy and my mark in this business, hopefully, that is going down as, if not the greatest, but one half of the greatest tag teams of all time. I think I've got a good chance of doing that, because from what I see on TV now, I don't see anybody breaking it anytime soon. Hey, I love the new product, don't get me wrong, but I don't see anybody doing it, because they don't leave guys together long enough, or groups long enough together, to do anything.
Right.
You watch, soon enough they'll be splitting up New Day, and they're the funniest tag team they got. They'll be split up. They already did with Kofi. Yeah. They'll be slowly. I've heard rumblings about them wanting to weed eat Big E out and stuff like that. And so we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, that part I do. I hope that I leave that kind of legacy, and and I talk about all my. I got my podcast too. It's called Water Rush Podcast. It's on the CCN network, and I talk about that with the guys I bring on all the time too. Guys like Booker T and certain guys like that I have on the show, and we talk about, man, what kind of legacy you want to leave, and just that you made the fans happy.
Right.
That's the most thing. You make the fans happy. And now the business has grown where I love it that these kind of formats get to be here for you guys.
Yeah.
This was never possible 25 years ago. Sure. So now this is awesome, man. Anything you could do to get the wrestling picture in the wrestling business in someone's, either on their computer or in their living room somehow, or on the radio in the car, is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely a rush.
Yeah. So the final surprise, I've been told by my associate, the 5-star man, that it's probably not a good idea to put her on the spot, but our Allie Abear does an incredible impressions of wrestlers. I was wondering
Why would you do
if
this
she
to
would
me?
give us a
You
what
should
a
hear
rush.
Braun
This is
Strowman.
Oh, Allie, let's hear it. I want to hear it.
He's doing this to me.
You guys want to hear it?
It's a joke.
I want to hear it from the depths.
You got all right.
I want to hear
Give her
I want to hear the depths of
a
it.
rush. Come on, you can do it.
Oh,
Let's hear it.
God.
Let's hear it. She does a great Braun Strowman. It's incredible.
Yeah, the Braun Strowman is legendary.
Braun's great.
LeBron is great.
All right, give us a what a rush.
Well, it'd be easier to do a Brock Lesnar or someone else that's got, or a boss man that was like, hey, everybody.
You got it?
What am I doing?
What a rush. Come on.
What a rush.
There it is.
Yeah, nailed it. Nailed it.
What a rush.
Thank you, Animal, for being on. It was such a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Everybody, give it up for Animal.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we are going to turn this thing over to Jesse Kimball and the cast of Nerd Up as they welcome Veronica Taylor to the podcast to talk about all things Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and everything else. So you guys come on up. We're going to make our exit. Thank you guys that came in for wrestling.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so
Yes.
much. We love you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Hand it over to Jesse Kimball. Jesse Kimball.
The transition was going. I thought they were going to start. I thought they were going to.
I will check on show, but we're still recording, by the way.
Yeah,
There is no pause.
still record. Yeah, so I'm going to fill the dead air because
Thank you.
I
I'm gonna help you.
thought.
Hey, Justin the Juice Smart's in here. I saw him. Where is he?
I thought whenever
Background.
you started doing the lead-in that they were going to be coming up,
I did see
that they were
that.
going to
They're not.
start moving
They're not. All
forward.
right, they're moving here.
But no one.
Peter,
But no one
part
did.
is over. Handing it over to Jesse
No one
Kimball and the
did.
crew. Jesse Kimball. Thank you, sir.
Hey everybody, I wanted to get here as quickly as possible, so there was
You tried.
no real dead air. I'm kind of on the microphone. All right, Shannon, who else is on my show? Because I think we have one more person, right? Who else is?
These guys and Lindsay.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know. I would have let you stay here then.
It's fine.
Hey, Veronica Taylor's here.
I feel really short.
All right, yeah. Now we're getting our introductions out of the way here.
I think your
Hi,
chair's
Veronica.
broke.
What an amazing panel of people.
Yeah, this is the Nerd Up Podzilla 1985 crew. Veronica's having a
So
seat
nice.
now.
I'm coming in from a distance and then coming into the mic.
She's so close all of a sudden.
No one else gets that except people listening at home.
They'll get the neat Doppler effect. All right,
That's
so
right.
for this cast, in addition to Veronica Taylor, I'll be your host, Jesse Kimball. We've got Lindsay Wolfgong down at the end of the table.
Hello.
We got Mandy Kennedy next to me.
Hi.
The 5-star man, Asa Gray.
You finally said it.
I
You
know.
never say it on Nerd Up.
I felt like it was necessary to reintroduce you as the 5-star man.
I appreciate it.
And then-
It's for continuity.
That's right.
Nerd show continuity is very important.
They need to know. And then Calvin, actually Bear,
What's up?
down at the end of the table. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much
Here.
for joining
It's really
us.
great to be here. Hi, everyone out here in the live audience and you at home.
Yeah, I would like to hear some sound from the audience. If I could get a round of applause for Veronica Taylor again.
That sound was not pre-recorded. Or
That-
maybe it was.
They'll never know.
Well, now this is proof too to the people listening at home that there were people here. It's more than just the other members of the cast.
Maybe.
All right, so I'm really, really happy that you're able to join us, and I'm really
Thank
happy
you.
that you're here on the show. This is, since you probably haven't been told, Podzilla 1985 is our podcast.
Right.
This is the nerdy show. We normally talk about like news and everything else, but we love it when we have
Awesome.
awesome guests and stuff like that. So, Veronica, for the people that I don't know who would be listening to this that wouldn't know, but tell us a little bit about what you do.
Who stumbled into this? I'm an actor, and most of my work is voice related at this point. I work on a lot of cartoons. I work on audiobooks. I do a lot of commercials and all, you name it, weird voice related work. I'm probably best known for playing Ash on Pokemon, and also May and his mom. And a bunch of Saturday morning cartoons, including April on Ninja Turtles, and now Sailor Pluto on Sailor Moon, and a couple characters in Dragon Ball Super and Super Broly.
Who are
So-
you in Dragon Ball Super?
I play Brienne Ribrianne, so the probably like the most cool green-haired girl who turns into the most giant jolly, I don't know, purple-haired person or green or something. It's the most incredible character I've ever played because I've never known a character who could jump up and hit you with her bum. Like from underneath. Like it's the most amazing ninja
impressive
move.
trick.
Yes, it is. And a great character to play. She's all about love, and I can relate to that.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really far behind in Dragon Ball Super.
That's okay. I only know my lines from my part, and so it's okay. I'm just hoping she beats Goku. Oh, fingers crossed. That's all, because I'm friends with Sean. So I just,
Also a really
Yeah.
nice guy. I got to meet him a few years ago.
Totally. Everybody who works, Sean, Monica, Chris. I know a lot of people on that show, but those are three of my great friends. So
Chris is also
Yeah.
a really awesome guy. Like,
totally.
love
I don't
the
think
guy
we
a lot.
should. If you didn't like him, you shouldn't admit that right now. It's not really the right place to do. But luckily, they're all really super. And super Broly. And anyway, they're all really, really great people. So it's nice to work with them, even though we're never in the booth at the same time.
Yeah, I have heard that before. Like you record your lines by yourself in the booth. Like you very rarely ever meet other actors.
No, just like coming in and out of the session, you could see someone, but otherwise you're alone, and you don't always hear their lines either
Right.
when you're doing it. So
Which like that to me is super impressive that you're able to get the inflection and everything else necessary for like that particular scene, having
Sure.
not even heard.
Well, I do think that I don't know what we're really going to talk about here, but just to put in quickly, I do think that's where your acting training comes in. It helps a lot because really you're for a lot of animation, not just when you're dubbing something, but you get the script and you get it when you walk into the booth. And then you have to skim down through the lines as you're skimming to read what the scene is about, and then what the person before you is saying, so that you have to think quickly, how would they say it? What do they want from you? Then read your line and figure out what you want from them and how that should be. And then you have to match it to the lip flap. And all of that is within about 2 seconds. So I think your acting training really comes in. For me, I went to college and grad school for acting, and definitely my training comes into play every single day. I also toured with several acting companies around the United States doing Shakespeare and other contemporary theater and children's theater, all of that. When you play live to an audience, you really are in the moment, and animation is the same even though your audience isn't there. So my training from that helps to kind of play things in a bigger way, but in a smaller space. Complicated, but that's it. So I would say I'm very happy that I had a lot of training. So I started acting when I was 5, so I've had a lot.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of experience.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I know Lindsay down at the end of the table. She is our Pokemon and Sailor Moon super fan. I'm
Okay,
sure she's
okay.
chomping at the bit to do some talking
I'm
on the mic.
behaving myself.
Yeah, it's been good.
So I am a huge Sailor Moon fan, and I've been enjoying the redub that they've been doing.
Awesome.
What was it like knowing that the creator Naoko Takeuchi chose you for your role?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she handpicked each of
Wow.
you that auditioned for your roles.
Oh, that's awesome. All I know is that it that everything goes back to them.
Yeah.
And someone chose me, and someone says, "I don't like the way you read that line." So I had no idea.
Yeah,
that's
she
really
handpicked
amazing.
all of you, which is
Wow.
so great.
Yeah. Well, it's overwhelming. I'll say now that I know that.
I've added to
That's
your trivia
cool.
for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Lindsay would do that. Of all the people, it would be you, Lindsay.
Yeah, it is amazing. With Sailor Pluto, for instance, she's so living so far out in the universe anyway. She's so withheld all of her emotions, and we actually had to go back and re-record a lot because my initial attack on Sailor Pluto was too warm. She had too much emotion coming, and we had to pull. That's the hardest challenge for me, is to pull
Have
it
that
back so much.
isolation. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's entirely fair. It's getting a little noisy. All
Yeah.
right, well, now that our special guest has left.
She's bailed. She ran. She was overwhelmed by Lindsay's fact.
Yeah. I'm
With
I came. Okay, I came back.
Hooray.
I've shut the door for those of you at home, so that maybe it's a little quieter.
Yeah, I think on the bright side, the only mic that would pick up that door is at the far end, and it probably
It's far.
still is.
it's far enough away.
All right. Yeah, we should be all right. All right.
With a lot of, because we've gone to other conventions just like as guests and seen panels with voice actors, including one that you were on with a group of other people. A lot of the themes with voice actors is they kind of stumbled into it. Like they were at an audition for something else, and someone somewhere heard like, "Hey, I want you to read for this part." How
Right.
did, especially with you going to college and grad school for acting, was voice acting something that you were always going to be open to, or is it something that you thought you would end up doing, or has this kind of been a surprise?
I don't think anyone sets out to be a voice actor. I think everyone sets out to be an actor, and then in what capacity you work is kind of what happens. Like, no one who's on a soap opera said, "I just want to do soaps," or "I just want to do Law and Order." Nobody sets out, but you have to set out, as with I think every profession, whether you're an artist or a musician or a scientist, you set out to do your best as a scientist, as an actor. But the opportunities that come your way are varied, and you want to make sure that you have the training and the skills to step through that door that opens. So being a voice actor is not something that anyone would go towards. Certainly not in my training is within voice and speech and movement and all of that. So it's just happened that most of my work now is voice related, but it's not something I ever even chose to do. I actually, the first real voiceover job I had was on the Batman stunt show at Six Flags Great Adventure. I did the voiceover for the whole show. I was in it doing the stunts, and I played Chase Meridian in that version of the stunt show. And so my voice was the Chase Meridian voice, and then I was the MC for the show. And we switched off teams, so but my voice was used in all of that. And I think when it went to other theme parks, my voice was the character
I
voice.
was going to
So-
ask, which Six Flags was that at? Out of
in New Jersey.
In New
The
Jersey, okay.
Great Adventure, I think, is just New
Okay,
Jersey.
yeah,
I think. I'm not a big Six Flags aficionado, but so that was my first job, which was pretty awesome, I thought. And then in the stumbling into anime and animation, I actually went to see my acting coach to work on a monologue for an audition for something, and it just happens that day someone else that he coached called him for recommendations for people who could do like a young girl voice, and he was like, oh, he called me and said, here's a thing if you want to go, and I booked that. and then they said, "Oh, could you audition for this other thing we have?" And then I through that I was booked on Slayers, and then the people who cast me in Slayers were doing the audition for Pokemon. So that's how it just kind of grew from there. And then a lot of 4Kids stuff I was cast in, and that's the same, like audiobooks I was working on. I do a lot of like teaching Americans who teach other people how to speak English. So I do a lot of ESL stuff, and that's like audio workbooks where we do all these things. And I happened to, I met someone who said, "Oh, I'm working on this thing." So through that, I was working on that, and then that studio, I got my first audiobook job through that because I knew someone I'd been, so all of that is networking stuff. So I think it's networking. Rather than I just happened to answer something like, "What the heck, I'll just try it."
Right.
I certainly never thought, I thought I could do it. Heck, I've been like doing interviews in my bedroom for a long time with myself and my tape recorder. So, but when you have training, you think that it gives you confidence to think, obviously I get nervous all the time, but it gives you a confidence to say, I'll take that challenge. So. Is that a good answer?
No,
That's
yeah,
a
that's
longer answer than you thought.
No, it's completely perfect.
No, they want to hear you talk. It's
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, they
But
that's-
talk weekly.
Yeah,
You're right. They
I
hear
like
us
that.
all the time.
Yeah.
Right, Mandy, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Ooh,
I need you to talk to
Yes.
Veronica Taylor.
about
Stuff.
this is so bad. This is my worst.
Hi.
Yeah.
I knew that this is how this was going to go.
Wait, where are you guys based? Here?
Here in Cape
Here,
Girardeau.
Oh, all right. We can talk about that. I love your town.
Thank you.
I've been wandering around Cape all day.
Yeah.
guys-
See how
What's
cool
your
I am
favorite
now?
part so far?
Okay, so I went into the Red House, and I got to talk to the woman there who gave me so much information about just, I don't know, everything. Plus, I'm a huge Lewis and Clark fan, so to be here
At the
and-
Mississippi, yeah.
yeah, and to be in that kind of almost original trading post where they passed through. I mean, so cool. So that, and then I went to Dynamite Coffee. Those people are great.
There you go,
36
yeah.
Restaurant. I went to Pharmacy today. I've been antiquing.
It seems
Grabbed a
small,
lot
but
in
there's
this morning.
I did, yeah,
It
yeah.
seems small, but there's a lot to find to
There's
do.
so much here.
Yeah.
And then I drove from St. Louis, so I have a lot on the way back to do.
You should stop in Perryville
Yes.
and go
I
to
think I
Villainous
did.
Grounds.
They
Did
have,
you go to
uh,
Villainous
They have a booth
Grounds?
here.
No. I
you
did.
need to
I
go
think I
there.
stopped in Perryville.
It's about
But-
30 minutes north from here.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I passed through there.
Yeah.
I know I stopped there for something. But anyway, okay, tell me why later.
Okay.
They have a
Yes,
a
ma'am.
booth here. We'll bring you a coffee from them
Oh,
because
for the
it's
coffee there? Oh, no, I'll go then.
because
For
it's
sure.
and it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the best
Just
coffee
tell
place
them
But
around.
you know
Godzilla
what?
sent you.
The thing
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like coffee is a place where you can join up with people. It's about conversation. It's about community, and you feel more awake when you leave, rather than going to a bar, which is also about conversation and community. But you are less than yourself when you leave there. Coffee makes you more of yourself. So I think in a way, it's a little healthier way to reach out to people.
I like that viewpoint a whole lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
Villainous
Yeah.
Grounds is they're just phenomenal.
Totally going there.
Yeah,
Okay.
You'll enjoy it. I 100%.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes,
have
it will be
on the
perfect.
way back. I'm going to St. Genevieve. I'm going back into Kimswick, and then Mastodon State Park.
Yeah,
Okay, you're making a
Pass
whole
through
thing.
again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So okay, I'm in. So yeah,
Wonderful.
And yeah, like I said, just tell them Podzilla sent you. They'll
I
take
will.
care of you.
All right, that's excellent.
All right. And yeah, no, just so you guys know, you all thought we were joking when we said historic downtown Cape Girardeau. But
Totally.
It's real.
It is
It's
real.
amazing. And then
Because every downtown is historic, but ours is like
no,
actually
really.
historic.
Legit.
And then to know that like the westward expansion and the Civil War and then look at now these amazing buildings that are having their own resurgence, and that it's just an incredible place, I think.
it's real neat.
Yeah.
All right, Calvin, you're being really quiet at the end of the table. You knew this was coming.
I'm ready for
Yeah.
you.
Take the
Hit it, buddy.
All right, so back onto, I guess, your job stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I know that you went over what voice acting you've done with narration and audiobooks and anime and video games, I think, as well.
Right.
Is there anything about any particular job that excites you? Like, does the video game seem more interesting to you, or the anime?
The thing is, what I love about being an actor is being a storyteller. So, and the chance to tell a story from different points of view. in an audiobook, you get to weave the whole story because you are the narrator and you are the characters. So you get to put the whole thing together in a way like a one-man show, kind of. With other things, you get to tell the story from a particular character's point of view. So what I like the most is something that has a chance to really play a character. Often it's all in my mind because people say, oh, can you just do this character? So quickly I have to make up who they are, what their background is, kind of all of that for why are they speaking, you know? So a video game is a little bit harder because it's so disjointed. Some games, there's so much story in them now that you get to play scenes in them. Other ones are just like lines and sounds of fighting and falling and laughing or crying, you know, like that kind of stuff. And that you have to work harder to figure out what the story is. Do you know what I mean? So I'm excited to work. I love working. I love a new job. That with Pokemon, I love the idea that for 8 years I got to play a character that I knew so well. That's comforting and wonderful too. So I think it's just the challenge of being the character that I love the most, and it doesn't matter what the format is.
Okay.
Do you want it to be something?
Well,
Do you
no,
want
I
it
was
to
just
be?
curious because I know that some people like to tell the whole story themselves, and so I thought that narration.
Totally, I like to play all the parts.
Kind of thing, yeah.
So yes, definitely.
But if it's just trying to get into the character, that makes sense.
Yeah, they all take a slightly different preparation, for sure, mentally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For an audiobook, you're sitting for 6 or 8 hours, not moving very much. You can't really eat so much during the day, and books take a various amount of time depending on how many words are in the book. But you can work a day to 3 days. Some people have 10 days on a book because their book's like 800 pages. Mine are like a 358-page small print book is about 3 to 4 days.
That's a lot of reading and recording in 3 days too.
Yeah. It's really hard work, and you can't move much.
Because the mic will pick it up and all that.
Yeah,
other stuff.
totally.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's grueling, actually. I love it, but it's grueling. Yeah.
So about the only way I can make it through books now is via audiobook. And
Is that right? Do
yeah.
you listen to
Yeah,
audiobooks?
tons of audiobooks.
Does anyone else here ever? Oh, that's cool.
We got a few hands in the audience there. I don't know why, but it's always kind of funny to me when I hear like the page turn. Like it's just.
It used to be so. Okay, here's a thing, and no one at home knows what I'm doing. But before, you would have 2 pieces of paper, and then I would have the one in front on the side and the one behind. So you'd have 4 pages, and then you can put one down, and then you slowly move them, and you have to wait till maybe there's a shift because you don't want to stop.
Right.
Or else they have to, at some point you figure out when it's going to cut, and then you shift all your pages and then pick up again like that.
You
So
have to learn to juggle at the same time.
yeah, exactly. But that was always the thing too. Now it's all on iPad, so you just kind of make sure your nail doesn't hit to click. I mean, it's just all that tiny clicky sound. Yeah.
I remember reading an audiobook on a phone, and I accidentally hit a button, and it scrolled back like
Oh,
up
gosh.
like 300 pages,
Oh, no.
and it took like
I know, and you're like
15 minutes to get back down.
I know.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. So what is the worst job that you've ever done? Like you think at the end of it, if it exists, I'm never doing this again, or have you had one of those?
Or a character.
I'm trying to think. I just had some publishers are very picky, and I just did one book that it was all first person, and so some of the things, because the person is telling the story and she's in it, and then there's other characters, but sometimes she says, I am da-da-da, and I would lied to say I'm, and because it was with the flow and natural thing, and I had so many pickups where I had to go back and correct to I am, and I thought, oh my God, I think I'm the worst narrator. I don't think I'll ever work again, because it just was so like, oh my gosh, and it was frustrating because when you're in the moment, telling the story, it's one thing, but when you go back for a pickup and you have to listen to it out of context, and it's just terrible. And I think this is the end of my career. But that's just because certain publishers want things certain ways. That was definitely the absolute worst. And if I knew that it would be that picky, I would have tried to. I didn't do it on purpose, but I would have tried to be more aware of that. If you're doing kids' books, you really have to be very specifically word perfect because they're reading along.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think I had one job, an anime job once where the character was a boy, and we got all the way to the end, not Pokemon, and we got all the way to the end and found out that it was a girl disguised as a boy, and I said, you could have told me that before we started. And they're like, you're fine, it was fine. I was like, no. So that has now become the job I hate the most. Because I was like, I could have played so many other things. I could have added a nuance to it. If I had known that, there could have been another layer, do you know?
Some subtle change.
Of course, I would have acted it differently. This isn't just me saying lines. Let's create something. Anyway, that's just soul crushing.
Oh.
So how far in advance do you know, like episode-wise then? Like since
For
you
anything?
didn't know. Yeah.
Oh, no, that I didn't know. I'm sure I auditioned for it because I auditioned for everything, but then you just go in. You don't know what you're going to do.
In the story.
No, that was like a 2-hour thing, that piece, I think. I've blocked it out, so I can't tell you. I don't know what the show was. But no, you just, let's say you audition for it, and then you go in, and they say, okay, here's the script, let's just start. So you don't know anything.
Oh, okay.
So you're totally creating it in that moment, all the time. Pokemon, because that's a good thing that we can all relate to, that we didn't know what the arc of the season was. We didn't know anything about it. So you would just go in and get the script, go into the booth, put the headphones on, beep, 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 start talking. So,
was it difficult, especially with Pokemon, like having worked with like, so it's Brock and Misty are the companions,
right?
And kind of you have your rapport, and you kind of have that character down with Ash. Whenever that switched up, and there's these new characters brought in, and Brock and Misty aren't there anymore, was that challenging for you to try to like have to now? Did that change how you played Ash in that now these are new people, or was it just kind of? It was still just kind of because Ash's personality is still very much friendly and.
Yeah, I think part of it is how it's written. Mm-hmm. Because you're playing the lines that are there, and you see the picture that's there, so you can judge by the face kind of how he is, but definitely how he speaks to other people is different than how he spoke to Misty was very different than how he spoke to Brock. Mm-hmm. Anyway, just in the lines, not necessarily his attitude.
Right.
But really, in their journey, they met so many people on the way that all the time they were talking to new people. Mm-hmm. I do think there's an underlying amount of just respect that all of the characters had, because they're all out there on this journey. They're all going for their goals. They're figuring out how they can help each other. And none of them, there is those weird squabble things that are kind of a normal, even within siblings, that you, like Ash and Misty were always a little bickery. But none of it was hateful or harmful. Mm-hmm. It wasn't supposed to be. Like sometimes you say these things and because that's who you are, but no one was out to get ahead by hurting someone else or get ahead by stepping on someone else. Ultimately, they all found ways to work together to achieve their goals. So I think within that there's a familiarity with everyone that they had, which I think is something that we all kind of have learned from the show without it like being beaten over the head with it. There's something about how, can't we all just get along, Everyone in the show was on the same level, even though Ash and Gary had a competition, and he would say, Gary is a loser, but at the same time, when he needed to, he helped Gary. So, we all can joke, but ultimately, it's one world. It's one Pokemon world. but we all have learned that, and I think that's something that ultimately we we carry on in our lives, or we try to. And if you're not aware of it, be aware now, and then make today the day you start. But that's, so I think they all kind of treated each other with respect. Back to that.
All right, we got time for one more question. I'm going to let
Do we?
Lindsay Wolfgong have
Gee
it.
whiz, guys, this is so fast.
Yeah, no, time goes real quick on a podcast.
Well, especially when I'm talking so much. So
Again, that's what they're here for. That's what we
I
want.
know, but still.
So you've kind of been on both ends of the stick as far as being the first voice for a character and then it being handed off to someone else, and at the same time doing a job of a character that's already been voiced prior. What do you kind of look at when you're looking at your own expectations, and then when you're listening to the new people that are taking over the role that you have?
I don't ever listen to anyone who has gotten a role that I played. I just can't. Pokemon, for instance, I don't ever watch because it's just too hard for me to watch characters I'm so familiar with just a different voice. And also with Ash, I like am physically moved by listening to or seeing his face, and I'm like doing the same thing. Like when I watch an episode that I voiced, I kind of am in it again. So I just don't watch that. Other shows, like with Slayers, I replaced someone who played Amelia originally, and I didn't even know the show existed before. She had moved or something, so I didn't even know who the person was, and I didn't hear any of what she had done. Okay. So I'm very respectful of those who have come before me, especially Sailor Moon, for instance, with Sailor Pluto and all the actors. I think the world of them on that show, and I feel quite honored to be part of it, although ultimately I wish they'd used the original actors.
I don't know. Some of those you guys are doing way better.
Well, I mean, that's all a matter of taste, but ultimately it's what you are familiar with. There's some people who are familiar with Pokemon when I was on it, and they love that. There's some people who only know Pokemon now, and they love that. So it's just what you, as the fan, let's say, are familiar with. That's your childhood. That's your life is with that. And when they change characters, it's always very difficult. So I'm respectful if I have to replace someone, because I think the first person is always the best. I mean, even for Pokemon, I think the whole original Japanese cast is the best.
Yes,
and if not for them, no one in any language would be anything. We base everything off of them. Whether we hear it or not, a bit of that show is a part of it all the time. So I think they totally are the best.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us on time. Veronica, thank you so much for being here.
I hope I can see you guys again.
You'll see
Yes.
me
Yeah.
tomorrow because
Awesome.
I'm actually hosting your Q&A with you.
Oh, totally good. Great.
She'll have more
Awesome.
facts for you.
Yeah, excellent.
For what all the folks came here to see and the folks listening at home, could you give us a goodbye from Ash Ketchum?
Hey everybody, it's awesome to be here in Cape Girardeau, or should I say Cape. Anyway, I gotta go get Pikachu. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, Podzilla.
Fantastic.
Thank you guys also for all coming. It's really nice to see you all. I've seen so many of you already, so it's really great.
I'm so happy we have a crowd. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank
thank you,
you.
my cast, for being here. And
Yeah,
yes,
you guys
thanks
are
again.
awesome. Thanks.